Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you. So the very first thing is like cognitive psychology. So your paper completely deals with cognitive psychology. So what is cognition? What is the basic of cognitive psychology? So what are we going to do in that particular thing? So what is cognition? So cognition is a complex process wherein all our thought processes, whenever we think about something, so we use a complex process that is like the simple process are like one simple things like attention, perception, and other things. One simple things is what is like simple cognitive process. So when we combine all together, we call it as a complex cognitive process. So cognitive psychology completely deals with your thoughts processes and thinking processes. So how we can deal with that? So cognitive psychology is a study of how people perceive, learn, and remember and think about information. So whenever just think about it, like whenever you think something, so I'm
Ma'am,
taking a class right now, so I'm telling you something, so you're perceiving it and recording it and putting it to your memory. So your thought process is continuously working. So in that case,
excuse me, ma'am.
yes, please.
Not able to read the slides.
Okay, you cannot see the
Yes. Yes.
slides.
No, same here.
They are
It is coming
they
Ma'am,
from
are
the
can you
bottom.
make it
horizontal on a
slideshow?
vertical. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll try doing it just a minute. Is it fine now?
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So yeah, I was telling you something about yeah cognitive psychology, like how people perceive things, or whether you're talking or seeing something or you're tasting something. So all your sense organs are the gateways for your perception process. So through your sense organs itself, you tend to perceive things and learn things, and so like pay attention, learn things. So that is how the cognitive process works. So whenever like there is some kind of sometimes whenever you tend to analyze something or remember something, there's some kind of mental failures that happens. So you're trying hard to remember something, so in your examination you're trying to write something or to remember something, so you tend to fail in certain psychological or cognitive processes. In that case, so you tend to show your cognitive behavior in like frustration, embarrassment, or something dangerous. So you start thinking about the consequence, what might happen. So if I all of a
ನಾನು
sudden
ಮಾಡಕ್
like
ಹೇಳ್ತೇನೆ ಅಜ್ಜಿ.
okay, so all of a sudden, if something goes wrong in this particular session, so I feel embarrassed. So, in the same case, like whenever something goes wrong with your cognitive aspects, so you tend to end up showing that frustration or embarrassment, like that creates a mental phenomenon. That is a psychological analysis that you are failing with your cognitive processes. And then, like, cognitive psychology is interested in what generally called as mental phenomenon. So, that is the scientific study of mind. Okay, so this is also like a general what to say definition of psychology, also a study of souls and minds, we call it as psychology. So in that case, like cognitive psychology only deals with mind. So what is mind? So can anybody see mind? No. So it's only like can we say brain as mind? No. So brain is something different and mind is something different. So then the question arises, where exactly is the mind? So what are we doing? So is structures are completely different, and what we think like mind is completely different. The structure of brain is something that we know, like we have different lobes of brain, frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, different kinds of lobes. That is not mind. So then what is mind? Okay, the study of mind. So whatever the phenomenon that is happening within ourselves that nobody can see. So I'm talking here, so you can only listen to me. You cannot see what is happening inside my structure of the brain. So in that case, the invisible things which is happening, the processes that are invisible in a human phenomenon, so human behavior, so that is what is called as mind. So the question arises, then where is mind? Is there only with the brain aspects, in the brain area the mind is present, or is like, so whenever you're instructing something to your body, so raise your hand or something like that, so your brain is working structurally, so your mind is giving the instruction to the body. So your mind is present everywhere in the body, so your hands has to support, your brain has to support each and every structure, your nervous system, your like brain, spinal cord, everything has to support. So in that case, mind is present everywhere in the body. Okay, so cognitive psychology is also interested in studying the phenomenon of mind. So mind is nothing but so that the thought processes and all the other unseen processes which is happening within the human physiology. Okay, so then we move on to the next topic, that is the research in cognitive psychology. So do we need research in cognitive psychology? Why do we need research in cognitive psychology? So whenever we have to analyze what's happening within a human being, like we are thinking, so how we are thinking, why we are thinking, so what is happening with that particular individual. So whenever you talk to somebody, so there is a conversation which is happening with each other, so you tend to think, why is that person is talking like that, so why, what is happening, so you tend to analyze the reason. So because of that, the research is important, so whatever we are thinking is right or wrong. So to analyze that, so we need research. Okay, so in this phenomenon of cognitive psychology, so we have different methods of analyzing human beings. So what are those different methods? So very first one is experiments on human behaviors. So how do we experiment on human behaviors? So can we like use humans as experimentation like tools or something like that? It is ethically not possible. So in that case, so we tend to use animals as a variables. Okay, so only one thing that we can do is like through observation we can observe human behaviors. Other than that, so while we are experimenting something, so we tend to use animal behaviors. So which are the animals, like why animals? So animals, some of the animals' genetical factors is almost similar to human factors. For example, mice. You must have heard about like experiments on mice, dogs, fishes, Drosophila, etc. Okay, so in that case, like whenever we are analyzing some kind of thought processes in an individual, we can compare with that particular, we can compare that process with animal thought process, and we can compare that with a human behavior. So other than that, we can observe human behaviors and create a controlled situation for human behavior. So if I ask you, like, now you are in a classroom, so for example, so you are all taking the class, so I'm controlling the class. So if I can listen to any other noises, if I say keep quiet or something like that, I'm controlling the situation. So that is also an experimental situation for human behavior. Okay, so we tend to create some kind of environment for human behavior system, and we tend to analyze how the human behaves in that particular situation. So majority of the outcomes are same, we tend to say that okay, this is an appropriate behavior, maybe. Okay, so how the thought processes are chemically been working, so structurally been working. So if you are like frustrated, which kind of hormone has been released. So experimentally, like with animals, we tend to analyze the structure of behaviors also. So if you're hungry or if you're angry, happy, so different kinds of hormones have been released in the brain, and different types of lobes and areas are active in different behavior sessions. So that's why we need research methods in experimentation in human thought processes. So if you're thinking on one particular thing, so you're seeing and thinking about something, so your occipital lobe is active. You're listening and thinking something, so your some other areas of brain is active. So to analyze that, so we need research. And then the next one is psychobiological research. So what is this psychobiological research? So it is the relationship between the cognitive performance and cerebral events and situations. So that is the specific techniques of psychobiology research. Generally, like there are three categories of that. So one thing is the post brain model. That is like before you think something. For example, this works well with animals. Okay, so for example, so you're going to take three different sets of animals. One with normal animals, the other one condition with. So you're going to control the situation as if the animals are in trouble. So after that, the one more set is, so you tend to analyze that particular behavior with that particular animal. So you tend to compare three different sets of animal, for example. So without any stress or without any kind of controlled situation, the behaviors are completely different with one group of animals. Okay, so the mid group, so that you are inducing some particular stress or inducing some particular anxiety towards that. So maybe like for example, So food deprivation in rats or any other animals will tend to create some kind of stressful situation in an behavior. Okay, so that is one. And the last one is once the need is being satisfied, okay, you have been given the food to that particular rat. So you tend to compare these three aspects of behaviors. So what is that particular motive or drive which is actually changing the thought process of an individual? So when you're normal, you don't have any stresses, the way you think is completely different. So when you're hungry, so you're food deprived, so the way you think, if I keep you people like today is a festival, right? So everybody keep on fasting or something like that. If I insist people to listen to me very carefully, how long they can listen? So they are being induced with some other stressors, so they cannot function, their cognitive processes cannot function properly. And then the last one is, so once the need or drive is completely met, how the behaviors are going to be changed. Okay, so with these kind of different sets, so with psychobiological research, so biologically how things can contribute for a thinking process, so that can be analyzed using this particular research. And the next one is self reports, case studies, and neutralistic observation. Okay, sorry, naturalistic observation. So self reports, so whenever like we ask people, they are ready to self report the experience that they are feeling. Okay, so if somebody is facing some kind of problem, if they can say or openly report that particular situation to you, that is one kind of analysis that we are going to do. Okay, we can get to know, we don't have to struggle to get to know the information about an individual's thought process. He can confess that he is feeling confused, or he is not able to understand some kind of conversations, or he is not able to understand some what is happening with the situation, how to go about it, so what kind of decisions to take. So that is what is like confusions in cognitions. Okay, so maybe like some two people are standing and talking very far, so the perception of people are completely different. Many people think that okay, they are talking about themselves or talking about others, or they're commenting on some other. So whatever they feel, they tend to report it. So based on that, so you tend to analyze how cognitions will differ from one to one. Okay, and then case studies. So case studies are in-depth histories, like in-depth information about one particular individual. Okay, so in this we can analyze the past experiences and sociocultural activities, so how these has been influenced the cognitive process of an individual. So maybe like the parenting style was completely different for one individual, the cultural aspects is completely different, the way that particular person thinks is completely different. Okay, so we cannot like judge an individual or compare an individual when they start thinking about one particular thing. So everybody, I'm giving a lecture now, so if you're 100, so you can understand my lecture in 100 different ways, I cannot comment on that. Okay, so case studies will give an in-depth understanding about how a person, what are the influences, what can influence that thought process of an individual. And the next one is naturalistic observation. So what is this naturalistic observation? So whenever you tend to observe an individual naturally in a natural setting, okay, some situation is actually happening and you tend to observe that particular individual. So if at all the same situation arises next time, is the person is going to behave in the same way? Not really. Okay, there might be some kind of changes, modification in the thought process. So whenever you write exam for the first time, so it is completely different. Whenever you try to attend the same questions again, the answers will be completely different. In the same way also, the naturalistic observation will give you an idea. So how the extraneous variables, how people can modify themselves with the thought processes. Okay, and the next one is computer stimulations and artificial intelligence. Nowadays like artificial intelligence is seen everywhere. Okay, so there are almost robots, and in few hotels the servers will be like kind of robots and everything. So artificial intelligence or computerized symbolization, so it is something that, so it's a copy of the human thoughts. Okay, so how human behaves, or if you have watched the movie Robo, so you must have understood. Okay, so it is a copy of human thought processes. Okay, so the artificial intelligence will tend to understand or else give a copy or a ready-made situation or ready-made responses for a situation, so which has been already coded inside. Okay, so for example, like, so whenever we tend to take EEG, not ECG, EEG, that is electroencephalogram, that is the brain waves. So it has been like our skull will be completely covered with some kind of electrodes. Okay, so we tend to analyze how exactly our thought processes are deviating because of the noise or the environmental disturbances that is happening around us. So in the same way, so we tend to analyze how thought processes can be same or can be different with the natural and artificial things. Okay, that's why we need different kinds of research methods to analyze a different thought processes, how thought processes can be different from each other, or how it can be constant when it comes to ready made fixed emotions when it comes to like artificial intelligence and computerized simulations. Okay, so and then the next topic will be your domains of cognitive psychology. So in cognitive psychology also, so we have different domains to go. Okay, so what are those different domains? Okay, one thing, the very first thing is like cognitive neuroscience. So, what is this cognitive neuroscience? So, as we discussed before, like our cognition involves all our nervous systems. Okay, so cognitive neuroscience deals with how our neurological aspects as a relationship with our thought processes. Okay, so if at all like you
The
have to
next
talk
slide, ma'am.
something.
Ma'am, you can share the slide.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So cognitive neuroscience. So cognitive neuroscience is like you're working on a particular thing and how your nervous system is currently working. So there is a lot of things which is happening. So if I'm talking like this continuously, it's within a fraction of second there's lot many things which is happening inside my nervous system. Okay, central nervous system has to work, peripheral nervous system has to work. So each nerve to nerve, so we have action potentials and resting potential activities which has been actually happening. Okay, so there are some kind of electrochemical processes which happens inside the brain and nervous system. So we call it as like there will be synapse. So you must have heard the space between two neurons is called as synapse. So the neurotransmitters will release the information from one neuron to the other neuron. So in that process is called as so synaptic process. Through this synaptic process, all your information is passed on to neuron. So in that case, so all your cognitive aspects is connected with your neurological sciences. So neurotransmitters will release, so different hormones will release, and resting potential, action potential. That is like so your neurons will be in a resting potential. So whenever you think, okay, you are ready to act with something, so your neurons has to get active. Okay, so that is what is like so resting potential and acting potential. Okay, so your every thought processes is connected with your neurological basis. Okay, and the next one is perception. So your cognition is based on perception. So perception, we have five different perception that is based on your sense organs. Okay, so you tend to see and perceive, hear and perceive, taste and perceive, smell and perceive, and some kind of touch or some kind of pressure, pain, temperature through your skins will be perceived. So if there is anything extra, that we call it as extrasensory perception also. Okay, so perception plays an important role in cognition. So if you don't analyze things properly, so whenever you see something you perceive it wrongly, so your complete thought processes will be ending up with a wrong end. Okay, so you tend to listen to somebody very wrongly. Okay, so your perception will be very much wrong. So your perception, we call it as a gateway for a cognition. Okay, so perceptions are a gateway for a cognition. That means like this is the base. If you don't see something, if you don't listen something, you don't make an effort to think about it. Okay, so in that case perception is the base for all the cognition. Okay, so and the next one is pattern recognition. So what is this pattern recognition is? Okay, so pattern recognition is usually a environmental stimulus. So that is like whenever the sensory events are happening. Okay, so you tend to analyze. You see something, hear something, feel something. Okay, so whenever you are making an efforts to understand something, you tend to analyze things in a pattern. Okay, you see something and that has to go to your mind. So you tend to connect that with your past experience. So what did I see, what is it similar with? So you tend to analyze with a pattern. Okay, so you see a pen, so your past experience says that okay, this is a pen, whether it is a red or blue or black pen. So you tend to recognize through your past experiences. Okay, so pattern recognition is something that involves the performance of daily activities and your past experiences. Okay. Yes, and the next one is attention. So what is this attention? Whenever you don't pay attention, so I'm talking continuously. If you don't pay attention to whatever I'm saying, there is a misconnection, there is a miscognition in the thought process. So you don't find any link between the very first statement that I gave and the last statement that I'll be giving. Okay, so that's why attention plays a major role in cognition. Okay, so information, the maximum capacity of an adult is to analyze almost 20 minutes is a maximum attention span of an adult. Okay, so we have like limited to two different levels of attention, that is sensory attention and cognitive attention. Sensory attention is nothing but like you watch a movie and you listen to music, so through your senses you pay attention. So cognitive attention is like you yourself internally wants to think about something. Okay, so you're thinking or you're planning about something, so you internally, like consciously, you put an efforts to think about something. So that these are the two different kinds of attention we have in cognition level. One is sensory and the other one is cognitive. Sensory is nothing but through the external object you tend to think. If somebody is calling you, so you pay attention, there is a cognition level that shifts. Okay, so there is a cognitive level. Okay, cognitive level, you internally put an efforts to think about some particular event or plan up something. So that is what is like different two types of attentions. And the next one is consciousness. So consciousness and unconsciousness, everybody says the movement psychology. So consciousness, unconsciousness. So even in hospitals, majority of the time people do say, so he's unconscious, he fell down. So what is this consciousness is? So when it is subjective, when it comes to individual, consciousness is how much you are aware about yourself. That is what is consciousness. So in psychology, according to Freud, our consciousness is only 1%. Freud compares consciousness and unconsciousness towards for an iceberg. Okay, so iceberg in an ocean. So iceberg in an ocean is only visible in the tip, but when we see the iceberg inside the ocean, it is a huge one. Okay, so iceberg is compared to a conscious and unconscious. Whatever you see, whatever you think that you know about yourself is only 1%. So our unconscious things, whatever we don't know about ourselves, is 99%. So consciousness plays an important role in cognition. Okay, so how it plays an important role? So whenever you're conscious about something, then only like you can think about something, the conscious thoughts. Okay, so you know that you're getting late to the class, you're conscious about it, so you tend to think about it and find a solution for it. So you're about to cook, so you tend to arrange few things, few ingredients, whichever is necessary consciously. So you pay your consciousness, like you tend to be conscious about what you're doing. So your consciousness plays an important role. Give some work for your thoughts and actions that you're doing. Okay, so and the next one is memory. So memory plays an important role in cognition. So I gave an example before. So you see some object, like for example pen or something like that. If you don't have a memory of seeing a pen previously, so how do you say it's a pen? Okay, so memory plays an important role in cognition. So if you don't have a good memory, so which class am I doing? If you don't remember that, so there won't be any connectivity to think about something. Okay, so memory plays an important role in cognition. We have three different types of memories. So that is sensory memory, short term memory, and long term memory. So sensory memories comes and deals with the sensory inputs. So how your sense organs will receive the inputs from your sense stimuluses. Okay, so and then it moves to the short term memory, then you keep on working about it, then it moves on to the long term memory. Okay, so whenever these things are happening, so attention, perception, so pattern recognition, all these things are working simultaneously. That's how your memory plays an important role in cognitive psychology.
Ma'am, what do you
Okay.
mean by sensory memory?
Sensory memory is something that, so whenever you receive, uh, for example, you see something, okay, so the moment you see something, so you tend to recognize what it is. You see a pen, okay, so that is only for sensory memory remains only for 2 to 5 seconds. You see something, you tend to forget about it, so then it moves on to the short term memory. So you have already been recognized it and it has moved to the short term memory. Okay, so sensory memory is nothing but you tend to receive the information from your sense organs. Your sense organ only recognizes that. That is what is your sensory memory. You tend to see something, you recognize it. So you tend to listen to somebody's voice. So you tend to analyze that whose voice it is. Okay, so that is coming from your long term memory. That is just a short period of time. So wherein your sense organs will just identify or recognize that particular sense stimulus. That is what is called as sensory memory. Am
Hello,
I clear?
ma'am. Hello. This is Preetham here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing is, all the memories, all this information basically, which are currently in our long-term memory,
Could
is
you
going
please
to.
be a little louder?
Uh, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So the thing is, I'm just saying that yeah, all this information which are in our long-term memory are
Okay.
going. They needs to go through the sensory memory or not?
Yes, they have to.
Okay. So if they need to go through sensory memory, then only it will process further.
Whenever the memory is happening, okay, so how you tend to perceive things only through your sense organs. So can you see something without your eyes, or can you see something without your ears, or feel something without your what to say, skin, or something like that, temperature. So all the things, if you can think about something, okay, so there must be some kind of imagination also, that we call it as abstract thinking. Okay, so other than that, other than abstract thinking, so all our sensory inputs will come from sensory memory only.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Sensory memory, then it moves on to the short term memory, then working memory. So working memory is something that, so you see something, analyze it, so you're working on it, then it moves on to the long term memory. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, thank you. So and the next one is, so representation of knowledge. Okay, so whenever like cognition arises, so representation of knowledge, like, so everybody is in competition right now, so everybody has past experiences. Whenever like you see something, so there is some kind of representation that your past memory is giving you. Okay, so you see somebody, like you have seen somebody, your friends or basic friends, or some other objects, colors, your alphabets. So basic, all the basic things. So everything has been stored in your knowledge already in the long term memory. So whenever you see something similar to that particular object, there is a representation of knowledge. Okay, I know something that is similar to this. Okay, so that is what is called as representation of knowledge. So this works with the concepts also. So basically, like you tend to analyze different concepts with representation of knowledge. So you have a previous experience with some event or something like that. So whenever somebody is saying you something, you tend to analyze. Okay, I was talking about memory now. So there is a representation of knowledge. You must have heard something different in a different class. Okay, so okay, there is a confusion now. So you started asking me about that is what is like the representation of knowledge is. Okay, so you have been already known something. So there is a some kind of, what to say, the stimulus is popping up again when you listen to some other similar events. That is what is called as representation of knowledge. And the next one is imagery. So imagery is nothing but your cognitive internal representation of knowledge. Okay, there will be some kind of imagination. So previously one person asked me, like every memory has to go through the sensory memory, so imagery will not, no need of going for a sensory memory, but imagery memory will also happens through your past experience. So your past experiences must have gone through the sensory memory itself. Okay, so you tend to imagine a rose, or tend to imagine a good dish or good food or something like that. So where it did come from? Okay, there is a kind of imagination with your past experiences only. Okay, so imagery is something that the cognitive representation of some concepts. Okay, so whenever I say red rose. So you tend to imagine a red rose, white rose, yellow rose. So imagination of roses in different colors. Okay. So your imagination, the cognitive mapping. If I say you have to go left, right, so you know what where is left, what is the direction. So straight, back, north, south, east, west. So the concept of mapping your thoughts is what is called as imagery. Okay, so through imagination also you tend to think about few concepts. Okay, so that's how like imagery is important in cognition.
Ma'am, some time ago, I had read one mental disorder. In
Yes,
that,
please.
yeah, in
So
that, the person was unable to imagine. Just some,
okay.
yeah. For example, I said red rose, right? I mean,
Okay.
the moment I said red rose, one
Mhm.
red rose came in your mind, right? How it looks,
Yeah,
how is
yeah.
it, right? That person was unable to imagine that.
Okay, then it must be of some kind of memory disorders. Why? Because so whenever you have not seen a red rose at all, so it's hard to imagine. So there must be only two things. So the person must not have seen the red rose. Otherwise, the
No,
person must have
it was
forgotten the red rose.
no, it was
There are
permanent.
only two
Like if
possibilities.
I tell you a story, suppose I'm telling you a story, okay, there was a forest. You imagine, right?
Okay.
So he was
Yes.
unable to imagine anything. Anything means anything. Like if I'm telling something, if he to
Okay.
him that okay, something is happening, some story or maybe some story. So we humans tend to imagine whatever we are heard, we imagined, right? That
Yes.
person was unable to imagine completely. Okay, he was blank. He was just hearing everything what you are saying, but
Okay.
he was unable to imagine.
Then there must be some kind of neurological damages that must have happened to that particular person.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, in that case, you tend to hear, but there is no connection to your brain, or else like there is some kind of neural damage or a synaptic connection, the cut in a synaptic connection, so that the person will stop there itself. The signal will not move to his brain to say that you have to imagine something.
Okay, okay,
Okay, this is the only possibility. Otherwise, there will be a lot of other issues like complete loss of long-term memory. Okay, so the long-term memories will fall on like complete practice. Can you forget alphabets now? No, it's not possible. Like
no,
you keep on using it every day. Okay. So this happens when it comes to Alzheimer's disease. Okay. So as people get old, they tend to forget everything, even the everyday activity. So brushing, eating, they tend to forget that also because the nervous system, the nervous cells which are connected with those memories will keep on dying every day. Okay, so in that case the person won't be able to think also, he'll lose the capacity to think, even to think. So if you can imagine, like the person will forget to eat also. So thinking is a complex process, so the person won't be able to imagine whatever you say.
okay, okay.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
am I clear?
Yes, yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yes, then we move on to the next one, so that is language. Okay, so many of us, like we don't speak the same language. So the way, like I'm using a like medium of English. Okay, so most of us knows English. So how this language acquisition happens? So language is one form of knowledge like which has been shared or like understood by the society or a common people. Okay, so that is what is language is. So how this language is concerned with cognition. Okay, I was telling you like alphabets. So can you forget alphabet? So can you forget your mother tongue? So it's not possible. Okay, so language is a basic cognition that happens in everybody's life for the first time. So that's how we tend to put all our efforts or our cognitive aspects to learn something new very importantly. Okay, so if the child wants to communicate, he needs language. That's where he pay attention whatever others says. So he perceive things, he makes an attempt to learn the same terminologies. Okay, so all these language aspects use all your cognitive substance, that is like attention, perception, memory. So with all these, your language will come out. And cognition, language and cognition are something like language is a communication which you tend to communicate what you're thinking. So what you're feeling, so what's happening within yourself. So it happened vice versa. You tend to use cognition to develop language, as well as you tend to use language to communicate what you're actually thinking. Okay? So that is what is the like power of language and cognitive processes both. Okay? And then the next one is the developmental psychology. So developmental psychology with cognition. So as I was telling you, people, like from the childhood, so we tend to analyze different things. Okay. So developmental psychology plays an important role. So what is this developmental psychology is? So for each and every moment, for example, like as a newborn, so after 3 months, what he has to do, there has to be some kind of noises. So he has to get up or scroll in particular month, he has to eat in particular month, walk in particular month, jump in a particular month. So that is what is like developmental milestone. So in this particular, the age appropriate behaviors, that is what is called as developmental milestones. So when it comes to developmental psychology, so we tend to analyze the psychological aspects in development. So cognition, so cognition is one of the psychological domain. So that we are going to see through developments. So for example, like 3-year-old kid, or else like 3 months, sorry, 3 months old kid. So can he recognize the voices of people? So he can recognize. So cognition is working. So he can differentiate the voices. So can he be able to communicate through sounds? So he makes different efforts to communicate with people. So is cognition is developing age appropriately. So that is what is like developmental psychology with cognition deals with. So for example, like 6 months old kid has to say at least one letter. Okay, so one letter A, B, C. Okay, A, ma, pa. So like that. Okay, so if it is getting delayed, okay, there is some kind of developmental delay that is happening in the field of cognition. So 1 year old kid or 1.5 year old kid, so he has to understand at least one command of an individual: go get a water. Okay, so if he is not able to do that, or else like walk 10 steps or walk a little long, so if he is not able to understand the comments, or if he is not able to communicate age appropriately, so then we go for a developmental psychology with cognition. Okay, and the next one is thinking and concept formation. So thinking and concept formation is the base, and we can say it is a crown jewel for recognition. Okay, so thinking and concept formation. So whenever I say something, so I was telling you a story now, so I was telling you about infant, 6 months, 1.5 year old kid. So you tend to imagine, think. Okay, so whatever I'm saying is right or wrong. So without that thinking process, your cognition will not work. So there won't be any further activities to do. And concept formation, so as I was telling you, kid, noise, A, B, C, D, red rose, white rose, there is a concept that is forming inside your mind. Okay, so that is what is like thinking and concept formation. So you tend to think about whatever the stimulus is coming in front of you or you're encountering with, you tend to form a concept about it. Okay, so and then the last one is human and artificial intelligence. So as we were discussing before, in the research. Okay, so humans and artificial intelligence. So what is the difference, exact difference with humans and artificial intelligence? So humans have some kind of, what to say, feelings, emotions. So is feelings and emotions the same? If I have to ask you, what is the difference between feelings, emotions? Is both the same? No, not really. Okay. So feelings are like temporary. So it keeps on changing. So you feel happy this moment, next moment you're sad. So you tend to feel crying, feel like crying. So all these are like feelings. So every day you tend to feel hundreds of feelings. Okay. So emotions are something like it's a complex version of feelings. It tend to prolong for a long time. Okay. So emotionally, the person is in grief. Okay. So the person is in, he has some kind of anxiety. So anxiety will not last for half an hour, 1 hour, or something like that. If the person is anxious about something, so it tend to continues or prolongs for about 1 or 2 days. So somebody had a bad dream, so it takes a long time for him to come out of it. Okay, so that is what is like emotion is. So humans have that different tendencies to feel and feel emotional towards something. So artificial intelligence is being like made up like It is like a computer. So 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Why? The computer doesn't know. Okay, so you tend to give a formula, it will give you the output, but it doesn't say how exactly it came from. Okay, the same thing happens. Okay, so whenever you ask an individual what is the output and why is it so, the human tendencies will use the past memories, previous memories, so attention, perception, everything, and give you a output about one, give you a story or analysis about one output. But artificial intelligence is a ready-made response for each and every aspects. Okay, so that is what, which are like different domains of your cognitive psychology. Okay, so I think like I can stop here because since I'm in my native, there is some kind of network issues which is creating me a lot of trouble. Okay, so if it is okay with you people, I'll continue the same thing with next session, that is tomorrow from 6 to 4. Okay, so is there any doubts in today's session?
Madam, I have a doubt.
Yes sir, yes sir, please.
Basically, now we are discussing here about memory, language, and uh, I have a doubt. Like we
Hmm.
forget
Okay.
some things, right?
Yes.
Maybe sometimes some spellings we forget.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
few
yeah.
things we forget. So where it is coming under this cognitive
So in
parts?
cognition also we have in your syllabus, it is not, it's not there. We have forgetting and reasoning also. Okay.
Okay,
So this happens through the memory itself. So whenever we memorize something, so if at all like our attention is not proper, or whenever
mhm,
we are learning something, so we have some kind of disturbances or distortion. So in that
okay,
period of time, our, what to say, our uh, concept formation itself is not complete, appropriate. Okay, so
okay,
we say ball. So we have a
mhm,
spelling for that. So if that
correct.
particular concept is not analyzed completely, there is a disturbance there. So the concept is itself is not understood properly.
Okay,
The base itself will not be proper. So as we grow old, okay,
okay,
so in like when we were kids, we knew tables up to 20. So now,
correct,
like, we don't know exactly what 15 into 15, we exactly don't know. So
correct.
that is because we don't use certain things every day. So we
Okay,
tend to forget few aspects. So since we use alphabets every day, so we don't
mhm,
forget that. ABCD we studied in
okay,
our LKGs, pre-KGs. We don't
okay,
use that. But logical things, so we tend to forget because of unuse. So we don't use certain aspects, certain things every day. Because of that, we tend to forget things.
okay. So if someone coming with the problem of spelling forgetting, so the solution is that he need to repeat.
Repeat,
The-
practice.
Okay,
That is the only thing. So if you don't, even we tend to forget that if we say the complicated terminologies, so we tend
correct,
to like realize or put some kind of words. So if I say somebody's name, for example, Hemant or something like that, so we
correct.
tend to analyze H, he is, he, M, A is, N, T, H. So we tend to analyze that. So
Okay,
whenever it is something like that, we know the basics of it, but we don't know exactly the spelling of it. So
okay,
there is some kind of sounds and pronunciation differences also. If they can practice that perfectly, so they'll
mhm.
end up with a good memory.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can ask you this
Yes.
or not.
Yes, please.
Sometimes
Yeah.
we prepare for exams, but we go to
Okay.
exams, we'll not
Okay.
able to replace the same thing. Like whatever we learn, we'll be not able to uh, put the
Repeat
same
the
thing
same.
there. Yes.
Yeah.
So even this is the same kind of problem, like we are not concentrated fully, or how it is. We forget.
It is because the attention span of an adult is only for 20 minutes, sir. Okay.
Okay.
So the way you read, one page you are going to read and
Okay.
understand, and the second page continuously you tend to read, understand. So we have three different kinds of effects, sir. So
Okay.
primacy effect, recency effect, and the middle effect.
Okay.
So primacy effect is something that, so whatever we read first, that will be remembered very well.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
middle one is like, so in the page, the mid part of the page is that called as middle page, and the last
Okay.
part is called as recency. So we tend to remember the things that we studied first and last. Okay.
Okay.
So the recent ones. So Recently we studied something, so we remember that. The mid part will not have that particular capacity to be remembered. So
Okay.
so in this condition we can take a break while we are reading. So after
Okay.
15 minutes, half an hour, we take a break, go around, and come back and sit for the fresh page. So this
Okay.
works well to remember. And then, like, whenever we understand the concept, so we don't really understand as it is. So we tend
Correct.
to give a conclusion towards it and tend to understand. So if I tell you a story, so you tend to understand the conclusion of it rather than line by line.
Correct.
So that is what happens in the examination. So even when we form a concept, so we tend to analyze, okay, A looks like this. So we don't know how cursive A looks like or a curved A looks like. So if
Okay.
at all like we pay attention, more attention towards a particular area or abstractness of that particular concept, then only we tend to learn that. Otherwise, most of us will do the conclusion memory.
Okay.
That is what happens with all the concepts.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Ma'am, can logic also be forgotten? I think somebody mentioned, like, can logic also be something we read when we were young, maybe in school?
Yes.
We may, if we had learned it, we may forget it. But if we had identified with the logic of it, even then, is it possible to be forgotten?
Logical and illogical. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So what is the logic for it?
It's a mathematical operation.
So it's a mathematical operation. Then why not like why 3 plus 1 is also a 4?
But there is a mathematical
Then logic.
logic also there, that why 1 plus 1
Yeah,
is 2.
mathematical operation as well as logic.
So that is what is it like logic. Sometimes like whenever like I purposefully mention like logic can be forgotten only if there is some kind of neurological damages.
Ah, okay.
Alzheimer's disease, a permanent damage to the memory can be able to like you can completely forget the logics also. So how to eat is also a logic. So whenever like it's a skilled based learning, so it completely on logic base. Skill based learning is nothing but so how you drive, so how you eat, so how you like do some kind of skilled activities. So this all comes under logic aspects
So,
only. So
so
whenever
when we say like we are driving and this, there is a muscle memory, we use that term. So what will that be?
it's not like muscle memory, there is a logic applied there also. So you tend to put a first gear, so your car is in this speed, your mind is working there, so you tend to go for a certain period of time. It's a logic that you have to change your gear. That whatever you're saying, it's a muscle memory. That is what I told you
Mhm.
about the sensory memory.
No, because sometimes what happens is we are not thinking, we are not paying attention to it, but automatically we are shifting the gear and
Changing, that is
automatically we
what
are
is like
changing
logic.
everything.
So that is sensory memory. So your
Okay.
sense organs are perceiving that, okay, so you can easily like you can analyze the speed at least. So
Mhm.
without analyzing it, you won't be changing the gear there.
So my
But
brain
there
is
is no
automatically
muscle
working there.
memory
So
involved
your
here.
brain is automatically going with that particular concept.
And
Ma'am,
there is
even
no
I have
muscle
observed.
memory. And
Sorry.
there is
Yes.
no muscle memory going here.
So it's not
It
like
may,
muscle memory, it's a sensory
no
memory. So
muscle
what you're
lessons.
talking
Yeah,
about.
right.
The sensory memory also happens. So you are consciously not paying attention on the road, but all of a sudden the dog arises. So your sensory memory automatically works.
Madam, it's called subconscious mind,
No, 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 no. You're conscious. So you're conscious. That's why you're changing your gear. Your
but it's without
subconscious.
our
Yes,
So when
because
knowledge,
it
if
right?
comes
you are
to like psychology,
because if you're in influence of any drug, you are not able to do those things, right?
okay,
Like driving a car.
okay.
So I think we need to be conscious for that, right?
We need to be conscious for that also. Uh, Let me explain. The moment like we say psychology, there are a lot many things: subconscious, unconscious, so conscious, all the things. Let me tell you, like the subconscious, unconscious things only works when you are half awake. So somebody said like the drug induced. Okay, so then like you're not even conscious and not you're unconscious. Okay, so in that case, so you tend to be like little conscious, little unconscious. Whenever you're all right, the natural environment, you're in a natural environment with a natural condition. So there need not be like unconscious things that is happening around you. Maybe you're absent minded, but your absent mindedness is not considered as unconsciousness. There is a lot of difference between absent-mindedness and unconsciousness, both. They're two different complex terminologies.
Ma'am, I have experienced it.
Yes.
Like, suppose I'm driving, okay, and I'm
Okay.
stressed, or I'm thinking
Okay.
of something, or I'm completely in a different world thinking of something,
Okay.
something
Okay.
else, okay.
Okay.
But still, I'm driving and I
Yeah.
am taking the turns and all,
Yeah.
where I have to take. I mean,
Your memory is working. You're used to that particular road. You're used to driving.
okay,
So your skills have been learnt.
okay.
Your long term memory automatically works
So
there.
basically, I'm not thinking, but my brain is working because it remembers everything.
Yes, of course. So your long term memory, like as I was explaining you, like the pattern recognitions, so
Okay,
cognitive
so
neurosciences and the memory. So
here
almost,
only memory is working, not paying attention, right?
of, of course, you pay
And is there
attention.
a role of reflex here?
Reflex also works, ma'am. So all these are cognitive processes. So whenever like you're driving, so I cannot say only one thing is working. So
Right.
there are multiple things it has to work.
Mhm.
So even though you're absent minded, so your mind will also say that you have to be conscious. So there is some particular thing is happening. So you have to put a brake. So that you have to take a turn. So how is it happening? Because of your memory itself.
So, is it
Okay.
possible for you to give a simple example for muscle memory? Because we hear a lot about muscle memory, events and how
Is it
you.
muscle memory even real thing?
Yeah, exactly. That's the question. Thank you, Ankush.
I want to know what
During
is
exercise,
muscle
I think is
memory.
what we use as muscle memory, right?
Uh,
While we're exercising or working out, that is when muscle memory comes into play.
Ma'am, it would be
Even
great if
during.
you can explain what is muscle memory
Yeah,
first.
exactly. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Ma'am, I would also like to know what is absent-mindedness.
Okay, ma'am. Sure. Okay. So
There was one a small reel or a joke actually
okay.
regarding muscle memory. I mean, when
Okay.
somebody is playing basketball,
Mm,
typically they will kick the ball to the ground and then put it into the basket, right? I mean, that's the typically behavior of a basket ball player.
okay.
And this set of people are playing actually basketball kind in a snow fallen place. They're making a
Okay.
ball out of snow
Mm-hmm.
and then they are basically putting it in a basket. But
Mm-hmm.
one guy, by habit, he puts it
Mm-hmm.
down. And then obviously because it's made out of snow, it just kind of gets crushed. So when somebody was asking about muscle memory, it's basically the muscle memory that's playing. Like by default, because the basketball is played like that, you just
Mm-hmm.
tend to hit the ball onto the ground automatically before you put it into, let's say, a basket. And just an example of
Okay.
muscle memory.
The same as procedural memory.
Let me explain you, ma'am. Let me explain. Okay. So the very first thing is like muscle memory. So muscle memory, like wherein you tend to remember some kind of motor skills. Okay. So now you know how to eat. Okay. So how your hand automatically goes to your mouth. That is what is like muscle memory. So the angle where exactly you have to put. So some kind of motor performances or motor skills. Okay. So without, you don't have to pay attention that you are taking your spoon in the plate, and you don't have to pay so much attention to put it in your mouth. It has been actually like you know exactly which angle. So even if you turn left, turn right, so you put your hand directly to mouth only. Okay. So that is what is like the muscle memory is. Okay. So in the car also, when you're driving, so you know how to put a gear. So is there any changes in putting a gear, first gear, second gear, third, fifth, reverse? Is there any changes in that? So that is what is like the muscle memory is. So how much pressure you have to give, where exactly you have to do. So which angle you have to put. Okay. So you keep on washing the vessels. Okay. So you there is a habit. Okay. Your muscle will not put so much pressure on a light vessels. You know where exactly to put pressure, where exactly to not to put pressure, how much angle, which angle you have to go with, so which angle you're not supposed to go with. That is what is like the muscle memory. Unconsciously, sorry, consciously, like with little consciousness, you have to put.
So basically, what you mean to say is that, even when we are driving, we are using a
Okay.
muscle memory, right? Because,
Of course,
yeah, so,
muscle memory, or like what to say, the habit. The muscle memory automatically comes along with a habit. So it
okay,
has become an habituation.
okay. So
So
does it mean
braking
that,
would be fully muscle memory, no, ma'am.
Sorry, which one?
Braking, like when you use the brakes.
It is not a muscle memory as such. So you have to put the pressure on the brake based on the situation.
Generally, when we apply brake, I think it is a reflex.
Of course, reflex. You see something based on that, so your brain works and you put a reflex stimulus
so
and you put
here,
a
okay, so here
response.
is my understanding. So when you're using a muscle, when you're calling something as a muscle memory, then there is still a cognitive, and then,
Process which is happening.
yeah, exactly. So
Exactly.
it is an more practiced behavior of all your conscious and cognitive and muscular and all the other memory skills that we have been practicing.
Exactly. So once we call that particular behavior as skilled,
Mhm.
because you're already trained and well versed with it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for confirming. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Madam, is
Yes.
muscle memory and motor memory one and the same, or is there any difference, madam?
Almost the same, sir. So motor memory, we don't say motor memory as such. So motor skills we can say.
Okay,
Okay, so
thank you, madam.
muscle memory, like motor skills, are something like
And
with the muscles we tend to acquire some kind of skills.
we also use term motor reflexes.
So yeah, motor reflexes, it's like your response to the stimulus is what is like reflex is. So you see something, analyze that, put a brake. So how much brake to put is
Like
what
if
is your reflex. So if somebody
right.
pinches you, so you tend to scream. So based on the pressure they put. So whether you have to cry or you have to just scream, it depends on you, your reflex.
So let's say if there is a player who is like martial arts, he has trained in martial. So whenever someone tries to kick that person, automatically his hand
Okay,
goes and tries to stop that, right? So what will we call that?
of course.
That
So
would
we call
again
that
be
as like
reflex, no?
one thing that
Isn't that
we
Reflex.
don't
Reflex, you only said reflex, right?
Yeah.
exactly like we cannot say that if a person is behaving, we
Right.
cannot say only one thing is working.
Right.
Yes,
Okay, so
Yeah, it's a
multiple things are
combination.
working. If
Yes.
that person has to put his hand in that particular position, his memory also has to work.
yes.
He has to
Memory,
remember that skill.
practice, reflex,
So
thinking.
cognition is a complete complex process. That's why I said cognition is not one thing. So you have to
It's
pay
just,
attention there also.
it's
So
like
then
a
lot
package.
many questions comes. So when attention, where attention, why, where memory. So everything together. Once we say it has been skilled, so all your cognitive process will be utilized there. Then only you can be well versed with that.
So, ma'am, it comes like a package of
Yes, of course. If I have
whole.
to tell you in a simple way, it's
Huh.
like a package of a cognitive processes. If I
Yeah.
have to say it is skilled,
Yes, multiple things. Yes.
yes.
Hello, ma'am. Can I ask you about photographic memory? Does it exist or?
So photographic memory, we also call it as episodic memory. Iconic memory is a visual memory. So episodic memory is that. So you tend to remember that particular episode only.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Ma'am,
which concept it
absent-mindedness.
comes like
Okay,
short?
absent-mindedness. Okay, I'm sorry. So absent-mindedness. So absent-mindedness is so you are aware of what is happening in the surrounding, but your mind is not ready to work on it.
Okay.
Okay, in driving, so somebody said I was stressed, I was thinking, but still I was able to work along with. She was not unconscious. She was absent-minded.
Yes.
But when we see, if you're absent-minded,
Yeah,
when you see the signal, you still
yeah.
stop, and when you again see the
You
green
tend to
thing,
move a bit, but all of a sudden there is a sudden shift in your cognition. So you cannot just move. So you can see that okay, some other vehicles are coming. So you cannot be absent-minded for a long period of time.
oh,
Then it
It's
will lead
just a
to
moment that
So
happens.
like sometimes this happens then when you are like
it
not
will
paying
lead
too
to
much attention, you're absent-minded. You are
Hmm?
thinking of going to like market, but suddenly you realize you have reached home. You are,
Exactly.
because that is what you remembered where to go.
Ma'am, then what do we tend to do? I mean, right things or wrong things when we are absent-minded? Like
Maybe
the
both.
example, yeah, correct. The example I gave you, like while
Yeah.
I was driving, I was thinking of something else.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
but
Both
still I was
good
taking the
things
right
can
turn. But sometimes we take wrong turns also, right? Because we are
also. So both can happen.
okay.
For example, like I'm taking class, somebody is absent-minded. Okay, they'll be thinking about something else, but all of a sudden there's a sudden shift in their thought process. So absent-mindedness will not prolong for a long period of time, but unconsciousness will do. That is
Unconscious.
what is the difference.
So sometimes if I forget to take left turn and go move forward, then after some time I realize, oh, this is a wrong lane I came,
Exactly.
and I go back and then do that.
So your
So
absent-mindedness will not like retain for a longer period of time because
okay,
of the different stimulus that is hitting your memory again and again.
okay, yes, yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question. Like sometime I forgot some spelling or some word for an instance, and then suddenly I'm doing something else, and that word is retained by itself. Like I'm not pushing pressure or anything. I just remember what I
Mm-hmm.
forgot at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
how this is happening? Because that word
Okay,
is
this
can
phenomenon is called as spontaneous recovery.
okay.
Okay, so we have a psychological terminology that is which is called as spontaneous recovery. So you have been already learned that particular spelling long back. Now you are not able to remember it. So you're trying. So sometimes two phenomenon can be applied here. One is insight, the other one is spontaneous recovery. Okay, so in insight what happens is there is some kind of learning called as insightful learning. So with a puzzle for 1 hour you're struggling, all of a sudden you tend to get a solution.
Yeah.
Okay, so same thing happens with spellings also. So you are trying hard to remember what exactly it is. For one moment you tend to remember all the spellings. That's a human tendency, we call it as insight.
Yeah.
Okay. This is insight, and another word you use is spontaneous response
Spontaneous recovery. So
recovery.
spontaneous recovery is also a process wherein you tend to forget few like memories. Okay, few
Okay.
associations or few memories, but after complete absent-mindedness, like you completely forget about that particular, you're thinking about one particular spelling, so completely completely forgot about it, and then you have started doing some other work, then you
Yeah.
tend to remember all of a sudden.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, so that is what is like the spontaneous recovery. So you are not able to recover, but all of a sudden spontaneously you tend to remember that.
Okay. And one more thing, like is our memory has a capacity is limited or it can be extended. So like I remember so many things right now. I have that capacity or like some I have that much.
Okay.
So it can be increased or it has some limits or how does it work or is it get refreshed every time?
No, like memory, we cannot say it has been limited because it is very subjective.
Okay.
Okay, for you it will be different, for me it will be different, for each and every individual, the memory aspects will be completely different. So if you like, memory can be more also, less also. How? You tend to keep on repeating or remembering lot many things, you'll have lot of inputs within you. If people don't remember or don't keep on reading, so there is something called as what to say, like purposeful forgetting. Okay,
Okay.
so people tend to forget things purposefully. Okay, they don't want to repeat the same aspects again and again. Okay, so there are a lot many aspects. If you keep on like, if you want to remember more, you tend to like work with the memories more.
Okay, like it is said, like when you're going through a trauma, it's like your mind automatically deletes and like purposefully remove that memory from your brain for the recovery or like this.
No, not exactly. For that, we need time. So we say like the distraction period itself, whenever it comes to like trauma and everything, so that time exactly, so our cognition will not work completely. So you won't be able to listen to others. So you won't be paying attention for a longer period of time. So all these things will be happening whenever you are in trauma. But trauma is actually a distraction for your cognition. Okay, so this distractions will actually move away once your cognitive aspects are getting active.
So is it like after the exam we forget what all answers we have written sometimes?
Because it is a purposeful forgetting. You don't
Purposeful
want it
for
anymore.
because its purpose has been done, so brain thinks it's no longer needed.
It's no longer needed. If at all, the exam is done, but still you feel that you need a connection between a first semester and a second semester. If you keep on reading that also, you tend to remember it.
Ma'am, then this is
Madam,
why people tend to forget things when they grow older because they feel like, okay, it is not needed now, right? Generally,
One thing
older people forget things very fast, right?
that is because the generic generation is completely different because there is a tendency the brain cells will automatically die. Because of that, for old age people, the memory will automatically deteriorate.
So,
Okay.
Okay,
ma'am, this kind of
madam,
deterioration from what age it starts actually from middle age? I mean, approximately, can you guess?
deterioration like it depends on individual. If the person is too healthy, so his cells also will be healthy. If the person is like not so healthy, he's not taking a nutritive foods, or he's into too much psychological distress or something like that,
Yeah,
automatically the cells will keep on dying fast.
I
Okay.
have
So
seen
maybe like
stressed people.
45 plus.
Yeah, correct. If
Okay.
people are very stressed, they have lived very stressful life, then they
So
tend to forget things very fast.
very fast. So there is lot of distraction whenever it comes to like
Correct.
perception itself. They won't be able to pay attention and perceive things properly when they are stressed.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this happens to young people also if they are
Yes,
in too
exactly.
much
So if
stress.
you are in a traumatic condition, that's what I told you. If you are in a traumatic condition, you
Correct.
won't be able to perceive things. Your cognition will not be working properly. To come out
Like
of that, also, you need your cognition again.
also people who are on substance abuse.
Yeah,
Ma'am, wouldn't that be a
Ma'am, does
madam,
cells
coping mechanism?
madam, habits are nothing but cognitive process.
exactly. So habits are like cognitive processes which has been skilled. So you have been practiced it and which has become an habit for you. So
Ma'am,
then
can
we
you
can call
once
it as
again
like,
explain? Ma'am, can you once again explain episodic memory? How can you just remember one single thing and not the rest of it?
for example, your birthday in 2016. Can you remember
Yes,
anything?
nothing right now.
So something like the special moment. So
Okay,
somebody celebrated or which makes
Like
you happy.
okay,
Okay,
someone's
that is what is like
marriage.
episodic memory. So you won't be able to forget it.
okay.
Or else
And
like
I,
so
hmm,
if I say like episodic memory, So if I say a movie of one particular hero. So you tend to remember that one particular scene of that particular hero only. Why is that so?
okay, because it was a special moment, that is why.
Special moment, or you tend to remember there is some kind of favoritism in that particular scene or with some particular hero or heroine. So in that case there is some kind of unforgettable things, that is what is called as episodic memory. In that particular episode will not be able to forgotten.
So can we say it is like, the more emotionally you are connected to that experience is what makes it more of an episodic, long term memory? Is that how we can sum it up?
uh I cannot say it's only the emotions,
Mm-hmm.
but also like there are a lot many associations also. Maybe like we can say like with bad emotions like punishments also, rewards also,
Yeah.
compulsion also, different conditions also. It depends. So somebody cannot forget the accident.
Ma'am, does the photographic memory it's one of the type of episodic memory or it's the only episodic memory?
We cannot say like episode is something like it's a kind of video. It's not a click.
Okay.
Iconic memory, it's just a stimulus which you cannot forget through your eyes.
It
It's a
is said
visual
na,
memory.
like some
It's
people
just a
can never
click.
forget. Like some people never forget anything. Like for them, we call that they have a photographic memory. They cannot
We-
purposefully forget even if they want. So that thing.
Then it has moved to the long term memory.
So, ma'am, isn't photographic memory just the sensory memory which is temporary, the iconic sensory memory?
That's what I'm telling you. Like iconic memory is a sensory memory. Like photographic memory, that iconic memory, you tend to put it into long-term memory. That is what is like photographic memory.
Okay.
So in whenever like it is a long, can you forget alphabets now?
No, no, no.
A B C D A to Z. No, why not? It's in a
I don't
long-term
know.
memory.
Maybe
So your
tomorrow I will forget.
photographic memory, so whatever you are saying, no, it's just an iconic memory which has been sent to the long-term memory.
So something
You cannot
whatever,
forget that image.
because something whatever has practiced, what has been practiced for a long time repeatedly, that has gone to long-term memory.
Long-term memory.
Yeah, so we cannot forget easily. So that means, ma'am, in like middle age, like as you said, from 45 it starts, the deterioration in memory. So can we work on our memory and for the improvement?
Yes, exactly. So if you keep on like repeating and repeating things and remembering things for more time, so your memory will definitely improve.
We'll stay
So that
active.
is what is the
Okay.
major therapy that we give for Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
Ma'am, I have a question. How come
Yes.
the phobias are associated with the cognitive psychology? People go through so many phobias in their life, maybe based on their childhood experiences, or maybe
Okay.
there are so many reasons.
Okay.
So, how cognitive psychology is?
So cognition also like when it comes to memory, so it has been associated with learning also. So you tend to memorize and learn something, right?
Yeah.
So phobias are nothing but it's an intense fear about some stimulus,
Okay.
right? So you see some lizards, you see some cockroaches. So somebody for something else like phobia, height phobia, blood phobia, injection phobia, lot many phobias are there. So whenever like there is a learning theory called as operant conditioning. Okay, so based on punishments and rewards.
Hmm.
Okay, so there is a little Albert story. Okay, so his mom doesn't wanted him to be friendly with a rabbit. So what she did was, so there was a rabbit was a furry animal. So whenever he tried to touch that rabbit, his mom used to give a loud noise. So once he tried, twice he tried, thrice he tried. So the keep on like the repetition of that loud noise made him to associate that. So whenever he tried to touch that rabbit, he used to get a loud noise.
Hmm.
Okay, so there is a fear created there. So later on, developing that particular habit, so he started generalizing things, saying that so all the furry animals, not only rabbit, cats, dogs. So he became scared of all the animals.
Yes.
Okay, so the cognition is playing an important role. The person is learning the fear.
That's
The same thing
conditioning.
happens with the phobias also. So we have a treatment for phobias also that is called as exposure therapy. So whenever we keep on like trying to expose that particular situation directly, the person will tend to feel that okay, nothing is going to happen. That phobia level will be getting reduced.
Facing the problems directly so that
Yes.
we'll come out of it.
So not directly in the sense if somebody is like fear of cockroach or something like that, you cannot directly put it in front of him. So
Hmm.
first thing you have to show it in an image. Okay, so if he's comfortable touching that image or photo or something like that, he's okay with that. Okay, you can show the cockroach in the cage first. Next level. So then without cage, then 100-meter far, then 50 meters far, 20 meters. In each and every situation, the person has to feel comfortable 100%.
These are about things or the animals or the insects that we can see, but there are some situations where people also have, like, complexes. They come up with some complexes, like
Hmm.
probably overthinking, or might be thinking that people are thinking about me, kind of things. So how actually is it associated with the psychology?
Thinking processes also. So like whenever you are like, as I was telling you, like height phobia, so
Hmm.
blood phobia, so all these things like complexities are something different. Inferiority complex and superiority complex. These complexes are something different and phobias are something different. Okay. So whenever like the person is not able to perceive or not able to like analyze with something, so somebody can help them to solve their issues.
Okay.
That is the thing. But whenever it is phobia, it is associated with one stimulus.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
is it like someone said because of the stress, the cells get dead? So
Yeah.
can it be regenerated with any kind of, or
Each and every cell will get regenerated. No matter what, your brain cells, body cells, every organ cells will get regenerated unless and until you think positively and you take proper nutritive food along with the medications. So whenever like I say like you are completely stressed, somebody is so depressed, so if I just make him laugh, the cells won't be regenerated. There is some kind of medications prescribed for him to take that.
okay,
Okay, so in that case the cell will be
okay, thank you.
definitely regenerated. Yes.
Could you please leave your mail ID in the chat box?
Sure, ma'am, sure, definitely.
It
Thank you,
was a
ma'am.
very good session, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
Can
for
I
the
ask one
session,
more
sir.
question?
Ma'am, thank you
Yeah,
so
yes,
much for
yes, sir, yes,
sharing.
sir.
Yes.
Thank you very
So
much,
I have
ma'am.
a question. Like, yeah,
Thank you, ma'am.
like so.
Yes, sir,
Thank
I'm
you.
still here.
It
You can
was an
ask me.
excellent session, madam. Thanks a lot, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thanks.
It is,
Okay. So
Madam, we
you
continue the session tomorrow between 4 to 6.
Yeah,
Okay, you
tomorrow's
can
session is
continue.
between 4 to 6.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
okay?
Thank you
So
very much, ma'am. It was a
Okay.
very good
There was
session.
somebody who wanted to ask me a question.
yes.
Ankush, please.
ma'am,
So,
your mail
ma'am,
ID, please.
I'll put it in a chat box.
so you were talking about like a language. So we have seen that young children, when they learn language, they reach more higher level of means uh, like what do you say? They're able to learn better, and if adults learn, they are unable to pronounce certain words, even if they are very proficient in a language. They cannot
Mm-hmm.
do certain kinds of pronunciations because they did not learn it from childhood. So why is
Exactly.
that?
Why?
Like
Because it's
children are
only
able
because
to,
of the
yeah.
distortion. Like whenever like you're summarizing something, so if you're not able to summarize it exactly it is in the beginning itself, so how you are expected to say it like after a week exactly the same?
So my question is it a brain related, or is it like they're unable to even like listen to certain sounds, or they're unable to like make their tongue like speak those certain like pronunciations?
I
Okay,
think it
Is
it's
is
it
more
basically
to
with the
do with
pronunciation
attention
that
to
you're asking.
detail. I think it is more to do with detail because even adults also can learn different language in adulthood and with proper pronunciation.